Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Tuesday, March the 18th, starting at the top of the board. And the global series for next year, the participants have been revealed. On November 4th and November 16th, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Nashville Predators will play a 2-game set in Stockholm at Avicii Arena. Should be fun. And so, yeah, that should be fun and entertaining. And of course, there are Swedish players on both Pittsburgh and Nashville, so that's a consideration. It's interesting, though, because both of these teams right now outside the playoff picture. Could rosters change between now and next season? Sure. So maybe we'll have more or fewer Swedes going over. But either way, let me know if you're excited to pay a lot of money to watch these teams play in Stockholm. Arthur Kaliev, who's already had a challenging season. That season has been brought to a premature end. He's going to miss the rest of the regular season. It's an upper body injury for Kaliev, and it's too bad. Kaliev's a player that when he came in, you could see he had a really good shot. He had a lot of offensive upside. It just hasn't worked out for him at the NHL level to this point. So his season for the Rangers is done. Carson Soucy appears to be getting scratched for the third straight game, and this one tonight against Calgary. Peter Laviolette's answer to that is he feels they have 8 defensemen who are NHL caliber. He's happy with the 6 that are currently in the lineup. This is not any kind of indictment for Soucy's play, according to Laviolette. So we'll see how many games Soucy's a healthy scratch for. But the Rangers are not wrong to have so much depth on the blue line, because once you get into the playoffs, that is very, very important. And the Rangers, of course, still looking at the playoff picture and saying we'd like to finish in the playoffs. NHL GM meetings. So they've been looking at goalie interference. They looked at goalie interference yesterday. They showed, I think it was 70 incidents from last season to GMs and went over, okay, what do you think about this one and this one? And there seems to be some understanding now amongst general managers. I think there's better understanding amongst coaches and players with goalie interference. 60 out of 105 goalie interference challenges this year have been successful. Comparatively speaking, back to before a time when you'd have a penalty if you challenged and it was incorrect. There were more than 200 challenges for goalie interference the year before they brought in that penalty for an incorrect or unsuccessful challenge, right? So, honestly, I think this shows that they're figuring this out, that more than half of them end up being taken back. There's always some subjectivity to it. So what they've also done in this time around with the GM meetings is they've given them an update on the elaborate deliberation process, all the people that are involved, who makes the final decision, all that fun stuff. And then that decision's relayed back to the officials, who then, of course, let us know so that we can tell the referee that he sucks for the decision they made. 75% of games this year have been 1 goal or 1 goal plus an empty netter. And they talked about how goals per game is above 6 for the 4th straight year. It has been coming down, though. I've been talking about that. It has definitely been coming down. It's cyclical. It's the National Hockey League. Scoring's always cyclical in the National Hockey League. But this is the highest rate of 1-goal games in the National Hockey League's history. So if you feel like a lot of games have been close, you are right. And I think part of this is because coaching defense has become more and more prevalent this year, and I think it just keeps games closer. It also, this season, has been the one that's seen the second highest rate of comeback wins. I want to say 3-4 years ago, we were seeing the highest rate for comeback victories. It was ridiculous. Basically, if your team's leading going into the third period, we're sorry, but they're going to lose. That's just the way that is. I think part of this, I think these two things are related. I think the fact that they're all close games and then you have comeback wins, I think those two things are definitely related. Games aren't getting away from teams, and teams don't give up now when they get down by a couple of goals. There was a time where you get down by a couple of goals, and you could see the energy was gone for the team that was down, and it doesn't feel like that's the case as much as it used to be. The Washington Capitals, of course, they are pretty clear in terms of their positioning, so it would make sense for them to rest some veterans down the stretch for a game here or there. And apparently there are no plans to rest Ovechkin. I don't know that Ovechkin would want to be rested anyways, but considering the chase for Gretzky's record, they want to give him every opportunity to catch that record, so he is not going to be rested down the stretch. which is good news, of course, for Caps fans, for Ovi fans, and bad news potentially for fans of other teams because, yeah, Ovechkin's goal scoring's been pretty impressive this year given his age and all that stuff. Getting into recalls here, Derek Ryan, recalled by the Edmonton Oilers. I noticed him in the Bakersfield lineup, and I'm right, yeah, Derek Ryan's down here. Cool. But he had 8 points in 13 games with Bakersfield. Now he's coming back up. And so we'll see if he gets in the lineup or not. Zach Hyman is returning to the lineup tonight. He only missed the one game against the Rangers, so he's back in tonight. That may very well be why they called Ryan up, just to make sure, just in case somebody else needs to come out. And Linus Karlsson's been recalled by the Vancouver Canucks under emergency conditions, and emergency conditions gets used a lot because teams may not have cap space. It limits how long you can bring a guy up for and all that fun stuff. One thing, though, that seems to be getting talked about right now locally, Brock Besser, Frank Saravalli talking about how Canucks have treated Besser and all this. And I know Frank Saravalli does not like the city of Vancouver, nor does he like the Vancouver Canucks. I think it's pretty obvious. And I say that as to somebody who I know I get talked about a lot with, oh, he doesn't like this team and that. It's pretty obvious Saravalli does not like the Canucks. But he's talking about Besser, and I just want to point this out. Over Besser's last 5 games, he has no points and he's a -6. So Besser has not been playing well. I think that a lot of the heat goes towards Pettersson because of the contract that Pettersson has. But I think to argue that Besser's getting lowballed in this market or getting mistreated by this market and he deserves, $8+ million a year, he only has 4 goals, I think, since January 1st. He is not playing very well, and it shows on the scoreboard. Besser's not like a big defensive guy. He's not an overly fleet of foot player either. So honestly, at this point, unless Besser's play would improve between now and the end of the season, I'm okay with the Canucks letting him go as a free agent. And I don't consider it to be a low ball offer to have offered him. If the 5 years at $8 million per was true, I don't think that's a low ball offer at all. I think that's perfectly, in fact, if anything, for a guy who's not scoring very well this season, it's a pretty healthy offer. Either way, let me know your thoughts. There's a lot of talk about Rick Tocchet in the market too, and his job as coach. I've discussed it. I don't need to get into it now. Peter Mrazek is starting for Detroit tonight. I also want to throw out there too. I really, really do like the can cozy of the Detroit Red Wings that I have. However, they weren't winning with me using it, so I did switch a couple days ago. So when they got that shutout victory, you're welcome. I switched over the can cozy to a different one, and all of a sudden Detroit won. So I do have some superstitions. And Peter Mrazek starting again for Detroit. He seems to maybe be a good luck charm for them as well. He had a shutout in that last game. We'll see what he does tonight, although tonight's going to be a little more difficult to get a shutout. Lysell and Callahan have been recalled by Boston. The Boston Bruins, of course, nowhere near the playoff picture at this point. At least in my opinion, and I know they're not that far off points-wise, but you look at the amount of games played, you look at their lineup, it makes sense. Call up the younger guys, give them a look, and give Lysell an actual look this time, and give him a chance to show what he can do at the NHL level. It's been an ongoing conversation in Boston circles for years about Lysell and how his development's going, and there have been times where there's been talks about his play at the AHL level, so yeah, give him a shot. All right, that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Preview tonight's action. We've got 9 games tonight in the National Hockey League. We've got 4 starting at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, 2 an hour later, 1.5 an hour after that, 1.5 an hour after that, and then 1 late start in Vancouver, which I'm a little bit, shall we say, pessimistic about from Canucks standpoint. Anyways, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. This, it feels like, is a big game. It's Ottawa in Montreal against the Habs. Ottawa's 36-25-5 overall. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They're 6 points clear of Montreal. Montreal, on the other hand, 32-27-7 overall. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10, and they're only 1 point behind the New York Rangers for that final playoff spot in the East. So this is a huge game. If Ottawa wins that too, they keep their eyes on teams above them and maybe look at catching third place. Montreal, on the other hand, looking to get closer to Ottawa and maybe jump past the Rangers, depending on what happens in the game tonight between Calgary and the Rangers. That also starts at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. The Flames, 2 points back of the Canucks for that final playoff spot. Calgary 30, 25, and 11 overall. They're 3, 4, and 3 in their last 10. The Rangers 33, 29, and 6. They're 4, 4, and 2 in their last 10 games. But again, they are 1 point clear of Montreal in that final playoff spot. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start. The Islanders in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. The Islanders 30, 26, and 8 overall. They are 5, 4, and 1 in their last 10. They are 4 points out of a playoff spot currently. Whereas Pittsburgh, 28, 31, and 10 overall. They're 5, 4, and 1 in their last 10 games. They are 6 points back of a playoff spot, but if you look at their record, they're 3 games below 500, as opposed to the Rangers being 4 games above 500. There are some games in hand that teams have on Pittsburgh at this point in time, which makes a big difference. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start. Detroit in Washington against the Caps. So Detroit is 2 points back of a playoff spot. They're 32, 29, and 6 overall, but they're 3 and 7 in their last 10, hoping to start a hot streak with their last game and continue it here. Washington, 44, 15, and 8 overall. They're 10 points clear of Carolina at the top of their division, and they're 6 and 4 in their last 10 games. But I've been wondering about just how motivated they are when they're so far ahead in their division, and President's Trophy isn't really something players play for. So we'll see how things go tonight. Maybe Detroit will be a little more desperate. Maybe they can hold the lead this time over Washington. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific start. St. Louis in Nashville. This is the start of that St. Louis schedule that I talked about in the video yesterday looking at the West. I've seen people saying, well, can you do one on the East? I don't think I can fit all the teams that are still in the running for the East and fit all that on one board. I don't think that I can because there's a lot more teams that are within a few points of a playoff spot in the East than there are in the West. It was a little bit easier with the West. Anyways, St. Louis 33, 28, and 7. They're tied with Vancouver for that final playoff spot, but they're 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10 games. Nashville 25, 38, and 33, and 8 overall, 15 points behind that final playoff spot, and 5, 4, and 1 in their last 10 games. So Nashville's been trying to play spoiler. They will try to do that against St. Louis, and if they don't tonight, they have a couple more opportunities because they're going to be seeing St. Louis a bunch between now and the end of the season. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific start. Anaheim in Dallas against the Stars. Anaheim 29, 31, and 7 overall. They're 8 points out of a playoff spot. They're 4 and 6 in their last 10. Dallas 42, 21, and 3 overall. 2 points clear of Colorado in that second spot. It is getting tight in the West. 6, 3, and 1 in their last 10 games for the Dallas Stars. But they're at home against Anaheim. That should be a winnable game for Dallas. And then at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, the Seattle Kraken in Chicago against the Hawks. I know, I'm excited too. Seattle 29, 34, and 5 overall. They're 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10, and they're 10 points back of a playoff spot. Chicago 20, 38, and 9 overall. 3, 5, and 2 in their last 10, and only 24 points out of a playoff spot. Very close to being mathematically eliminated from a playoff chase at all. Then at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, Utah in against the Oilers. This is the most important game for Utah for their season until the next game. Utah, 30, 26, and 11 overall. They're 6, 2, and 2 in their last 10. They are 2 points back of Vancouver for that final playoff spot. Edmonton, 39, 24, and 4 overall. They're 5 and 5 in their last 10 games. They're 4 points back of the Vegas Golden Knights for the top spot in the division. They're 1 point clear of the LA Kings in second place, so it is not a very easy task for the Edmonton Oilers. They have a lot of work left to do between now and the end of the season, and so we'll see how their lineup factors between now and the end of the season. I did see that, like, for instance, Jeff Skinner is being tried on the top line tonight, but the lines are usually in the blender for the Oilers, so yeah, we'll see how long that goes. 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, Winnipeg in Vancouver against the Canucks. I'm excited. Winnipeg, 47, 17, and 4. They're 11 points ahead of Dallas, so maybe they'll be a little less motivated, but they're 6, 3, and 1 in their last 10. Vancouver should be heavily motivated against the Jets. They are, of course, tied with St. Louis for that final playoff spot, which should also motivate them. They're 31, 25, and 11 overall, and they're 5 and 5 in their last 10 games. So let me know your picks in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Your support greatly appreciated as always. I will talk to you again soon.